let's dig into our topic, shifting from intent to tangible results. And my first question to you is, what are the key steps, would you say, to designing sustainability programs that are both impact-driven and realistic within existing organizational structures?
Well, I think in our case, it has pretty much been about understanding the bigger picture. So Saint-Gobain Distribution Sweden, we're a family of companies. We sell goods to the big contractors and the small contractors in installation, in construction projects, which means that we're part of a pretty polluting industry, the construction industry. And well, when we meet a carpenter across the counter, well, they just need the stuff they need to go and finish their project. So how can we drive change, and what is our role in helping the industry to transform? So for us, it has been a lot about connecting the dots for the people in the organization. Regulatory demands, net zero targets from ambitious real estate companies such as Castellum, and also, well, on EU level even, means that we need to understand that at the end of these regulatory demands, there's a person pretty much knee-deep in mud or covered in dust on a construction site that is responsible to turn those promises into reality. And this is our customer, and we want to empower them to grow and develop their business by providing better solutions, better data to big construction companies, real estate companies, and helping our customer to succeed, to win and grow their business is something that my colleagues, business-to-business sellers, definitely can relate to. They would do anything for the customer. So then this is just an added value. And that has been, I think, successful in the sense that we see how we contribute, what the bigger picture is, and how me as an individual on the shop floor is part of the change.
And Lovisa, what do you say about how we can create acceptance for change and goals?
Well, I think the first part would be making the change or a goal more understandable, both for like the company, but also for me as a person, because setting a goal, net zero carbon scope 1 and 2, location-based embodied carbon, it's a bit difficult to understand. I mean, what does it really mean? But also, what does it mean for me as a person in my role? Because for me, it might be different to my colleague who does a different work. So I think it's very important to understand the goal, but also understand how does this goal create value, not only for the organization, but also for our customers. Because otherwise, at least for me, or maybe for you as well, if I don't see this, I will, why am I doing this? And if I have that feeling, why am I doing this? I don't have acceptance of the goal.
Would you say that goal, focus and requirements are the most important factors for achieving results?
Both yes and no. It's important to know which road are we taking, where are we going, but at the same time, you need to get the job done. You can all have a lot of fancy goals and difficult words, but it doesn't matter if no one does the job. So I think we need to focus on the activities in the daily operations as well. Because when you do them, reaching a goal will be a positive effect of the work you do.
Well, my answer to that question would be no. I do sometimes think that we spend too much time in designing perfect plans and activities, and we might execute on them, and that means we might reach a goal. But actually, in the reality we're facing today with a lot of uncertainty and unpredictable events, then I think what's more important actually to achieve impact is the people So it's really about working with changing behaviors and helping people to navigate by strengthening and encouraging curiosity, strengthening and encouraging collaboration. Because if we empower people with these kinds of tools, they can navigate despite the course of the marathon being redesigned. If we have a clear understanding of the destination, what we want it to look like when we get there, then the path we will walk might change, but eventually we will go there, because it's the people. To your point, I agree. It's really the people that create the results. It's not the perfect plan. So I think that's something we tend to focus a little bit less on sometimes. It's so important to have the glossy plan, but at the end of the day, it's us people in our daily behaviors that will create a change.
How would you say that we can leverage CO2 data in order to change behaviors and achieve tangible results, starting with you, Hanna?
Well, CO2 data for us in the construction industry is pretty critical. All of us in the value chain have the scope 3 as one of our key negative impacts. The extraction of raw materials and the high heat that is required to manufacture steel, plastic, even the components of heat pumps, some of our big product groups that our companies distribute, is significant in our impact. And we've had, at Saint-Gobain Distribution for 5 years, we've had science-based targets approved, and we're completely off track. Frankly. Why? Because since 2020, our industry in Sweden was booming. We were growing, it was COVID and people were renovating their houses and, it was great. And the footprint just kept increasing. So we need to decouple, obviously, our growth from the CO2 emission. But we cannot succeed unless our customer, the contractor, and their customer, like Castellum or other infrastructure and construction companies, unless they drive towards net zero, we will not have a strong offer to help reduce the footprint. So we're really in the same boat here with the entire value chain. So what we did was to pull in carbon footprint on article level in the ERP system of 2 of our largest companies, Dahl and Optimera, to be able to have transparency so that our sales team can identify and propose a better option to our customer and help customers to win tenders with high sustainability requirements. Because unless we work with those ambitious players in the industry, it will be really hard for us to do the decoupling. So we have some successful examples where we just, on the shelves of all the building merchant stores at Optimera, we have standard gypsum board. Customer goes, buy the gypsum, go back and install it. We replaced that with a lighter option, which helped us in that product group to reduce the footprint with 20%. Any customer buying gypsum at our store will also reduce with 20%. And then it's a lighter board, so it's actually reducing the transport emissions, and it's better ergonomically for the carpenter to install. So that's an example of a win-win solution, but we need to dare to go there.
We talked a bit about transparency previously today. I would like to hear your take on it, Lovisa. How important would you say that transparency is as a driver of impact, in your opinion, to empower people to act?
I think it's really important. For example, when you're being transparent about the carbon footprint, we can choose the product with the best carbon footprint. But also you need a lot of other information. I don't think the CO2 impact can stand alone, because the time frame and the cost will always be important as well. But when you have transparency in information, you can make good decisions.
And how do one drive change? It's not isolated in operations, rather than brought up through the whole value chain in collaboration.
Well, requirements can be a good start. For example, we require this CO2 level. Example, for the textile flooring, we want to have 9 kilos CO2 equivalents per square meter. But I also think we should ask more questions, because questions open up for discussion. If you have a requirement, I think the answer will probably be yes or no. Will you fulfill this requirement? Yes. But if you ask, how will you fulfill this requirement? You open up for discussion and talk forth and back, and maybe you have some innovation and crazy ideas. So I think we should ask more questions to the people we work with, both our colleagues but also suppliers.
Hanna, where do you see the greatest internal resistance to sustainability initiatives, and how do you turn that into momentum for change?
Well, I do think actually that my colleagues see that we have a great business opportunity in integrating sustainability in the customer offer. Instead of looking at ourselves as someone who purchases newly produced goods and deliver them to the right site in the on the right time, what we could do is to be an enabler of sustainable construction. So what if we consolidate the data and we deliver the data and the documentation as well, in order to make life easier for sustainability professionals down the stream, so to say, at real estate companies and the customers that we're having, then we definitely see that we can take another role and review our business. I think to some extent, it's also about facing the realities. So if we are really going to achieve net zero at some point in construction projects or reach certain carbon budgets, we will need to stop demolishing. And it takes a big footprint if you tear down a building ending up as waste and then purchase new materials to build new. Very cost efficient and super carbon intense. So if Castellum and others are supposed to reach their sustainability targets, they might want to use more materials that are already installed. What is key in our business model today? It is to sell newly manufactured goods. So is there a role for us if the industry is transforming, where we can still grow despite decreasing volumes in the selling of newly produced goods? So to be a bit open-minded and understand the needs in the value chain, we definitely can seek out new roles and start building the future ecosystems that we need to keep more materials in a circular loop. Maybe we can add value there with our huge logistic fleet, our presence in 180 different locations across Sweden, with our knowledge about products, with our access to product data. Maybe there is a strengthened role for a distributor in a transformed industry. So to be a bit open-minded and see how we can serve the direction, I think is helpful.
I would love to talk more with you, but I think that both of you will attend the after work that we're going to have in just a little while. So for now, thank you so much for joining me here on stage.
Thank you.
Thank you.